On today's show, the Golden State Warriors potentially down to their final game of the season. Can they extend this thing? We're debating with Evan Giddings on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors,
Stop trying to turn the page on us so fast.
your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
We got 4 championships.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Every team has a chance if Steph's on the team.
Your team every day.
Yo, welcome to the Locked On Warriors, everyone. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, so we start with the big news, and it was trending this way for a while, but official as of Tuesday, Steph Curry is out for Game 5 in Minnesota, so the Warriors will face elimination without number 30. Hopefully they get a better Jimmy Butler. 9 shots in a playoff game when you're making as much money as Jimmy Butler got through this extension, it's inexcusable. However, it sounds like there is some sort of an excuse there. The illness bug has hit Podziemski. It's hit Gary Payton. Now Jimmy Butler. Steve Kerr calling the illness definitely impactful. Went from 26 shots in Game 3 to 9 in Game 4, but Kerr did say Butler's feeling better. He will be ready to go on Wednesday. Steph Curry will make the trip for the Warriors to be there for moral support, but again, will be out. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game. That's the flagship of the Golden State Warriors in the Bay Area. Also covered the team for CBS News Bay Area. One of my co-hosts at 95.7, Evan Giddings. He's there right now. You can hear him on Warriors Post after all the games. You can also hear him on the radio call for the St. Mary's Gales. Evan, thanks for joining me, man.
What's up, Chuck? How we feeling, man? I know things are, a little below the norm for the Warriors, but hey, man, we got another game to work with. Season not quite done yet. I'm happy to be with you.
It's crazy because based on the tone around Dub Nation right now, it feels like the season's done, right? People are already talking about the offseason. I've already heard the name Cam Johnson mentioned a million times. So we'll get into some of that in the last block of the show, but we got to start by talking about a series that is still alive. The Warriors have come back from 3-1 before. Sure, they don't have a Game 6 Clay. Who do they have at this point aside from Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga? That's the big question mark because Steve Kerr did not go deep into the bench, did not play players like Quentin Post who could potentially space the floor, did not go with someone like Guy Santos who could provide some energy, didn't go with Pat Spencer despite the struggles of Brandin Podziemski. He just rolled with the same 8 that he threw out there the entire game, and it did not work. Is at the end, there was just not enough firepower whatsoever. Kaminga led the way with 23, and then from there, I mean, no one scored over 14 for the Dubs. Let's start with Jimmy Butler because he should be scoring more than 14 every single game in the series. He should be taking more than 9 shots every single game that he is in a Golden State Warriors uniform from here throughout the rest of his career. Because you could see him on the bench from one of the bird's eye view cameras in Game 1, the game that the Warriors won, basically mouthing, "I'm exhausted. I'm very tired right now. The one-day rest it doesn't help his cause." So what is it that's hurting him?
I think it's a combination of all you just talked about. I think it's a little bit of injury. I think it's the fact that Jimmy Butler typically around the 65 game mark in both the regular and postseason, which is where he's at now, is what kind of has been his threshold throughout his last, I would say, 5 or 6 years since he's turned 30. I would also say it's because this isn't a team that's built for him. This is a team that's built for Steph Curry, and he's had to sort of adopt the role of Batman in his own words from that standpoint. And with Curry, he is the spacing. Curry is the one that creates opportunities for everyone else. Jimmy Butler is accustomed to playing with just a bunch of shooters. I mean, he dragged, yes, a Miami Heat team that's not very good, but Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, all guys that are decent three-point shooters to multiple finals. That's not on this team. While the Warriors are not a great group, neither were Miami, this team really lacks shooting. And I think also, Chuck, Jimmy Butler is just not at a stage in his career where he's someone that can will a team to an NBA Finals in a stacked conference anymore. While in the East, he was able to do that at times, I think we're seeing age take its toll on all three of the Warriors' major players in one way, shape, or form. And they have to be whole in order to be at their best. Obviously, without Curry, it's going to be a major struggle. But Jimmy Butler, yes, he was given a $121 million extension to do this very thing, which has helped the Warriors overcome when Steph Curry's out. But I just don't think he's at the stage in his career where he can do that anymore, especially when he's less than 100%.
All right, so check out this statistic here. I'm uploading it on the spot. Here we go. Playoff efficiency field goal percentage of the Warriors backcourt with Steph on and off the floor. Brandin Podziemski with Steph on, he's shooting 52%. With Steph off, 26%. Gary Payton with Steph on, a robust 62%. With Steph off the floor, it's down to 42%. Moody, Steph on the floor, 49. Steph off the floor, 35. And then Buddy Hield, shooting well regardless, 63 with Steph on, 60 or 52 rather with Steph off. That's an extreme difference right there. Like, what would this team's record be if this squad that they played last night, the 9 deep that they rolled, if they ran out there for 82 games in a regular season, had the injuries here and there to a Butler, to a Kaminga, whatever it may be, like, how many wins does Steph Curry add to a given team in a season? I mean, it's got to be like 25, right?
A whole hell of a lot, but I would also look to the Warriors were a sub 500 team when they had only Curry. I mean, it really has turned around. I wouldn't say solely because of Jimmy Butler, but the combination of both of them. When you have 2 stars on one team, obviously you're a better group, but it masks all of the deficiencies of your roster. This isn't a great 3-point shooting team, even with Steph Curry. It's not a great defensive team at times without Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green. So you need all 3 of those pieces, but specifically on offense, Jimmy and Steph to be at their best. The thing that really strikes me, Chuck, is when they have Steph on the floor, they're a team that can beat you with offense. When they don't have Steph, they're a team that almost has to beat you solely with their defense. And I think that's why you've seen the path to victory for them throughout a lot of this postseason be holding opposing teams to 100 points. So if you're giving up 115 or 117 like they did in game 4 to the Timberwolves, you're just not going to be in a lot of those games. And so he draws every single person on the floor to him. You have to worry about where he is. And I also think there's kind of a mental aspect to this as well, which is, if Steph's on the floor, I don't have to hit every shot. There's not pressure on me to make every single open basket to make it count because we're not going to get that opportunity again. So I think both, as well as the physical aspect of them not getting everything perfectly dealt for them, the mental aspect of, God, I got an open 3, I have to hit this, that's clearly weighing on the Warriors right now as well, especially their role players.
I want to get into some Brandin Podziemski talk. He was considered untouchable in the offseason. The rumors were circulating that the Dubs would not include him in that Lowry Markkanen trade, and that was one of the many reasons why it fell apart. Showed his flashes during the regular season, games that he legit went for 25, 8, and 6 against Nuggets and Lakers, other games where he could not hit a shot, months where he could not hit a shot. And on the brightest stage, the NBA playoffs, he has been, according to Steve Kerr, playing really hard. He's been doing little things well, but when it comes to what the Warriors need, and that is a supplementary scoring piece to Kaminga and to Jimmy Butler in this series, he has not provided that whatsoever. Just 3 of 14 in game 4 after a tough game 3 as well. We're going to talk about some Brandin Podziemski and what the future looks like for the Golden State Warriors, both Wednesday night's game and also a little bit more forward than that heading into this offseason that's hopefully in June getting. So we got some time, hopefully. That'll be next on Locked On Warriors. All right, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Hungryroot. Everyone in my house always has something going on. It's the busy season for me, and I don't have a lot of time to go grocery shopping. Therefore, healthy meals, they're hard to get when you're going to fast food. Hungryroot is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and your health goals. They tailor it to what you like. So I mentioned yesterday, if you don't like cauliflower, but you want to be healthy, maybe they'll find a meal that doesn't not maybe. They'll find a meal that doesn't have cauliflower in it. They're only going to give you things that are delicious and nutritious in your opinion, not just in the public eye's opinion. The meals come together in 15 minutes or less. It gives you more time for workouts, podcasts, family time, hobbies, whatever it may be. Take advantage of this exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That is hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You will start to realize incredible insights about how much you're spending on certain things, and then you can limit those out of your budget. So managing your money is easy, and it's easier with your partner because you can track shared personal accounts. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LockedOnNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LockedOnNBA for half off your first year. Podziemski, man. I've been a big Brandin Podziemski guy because of the intangibles that he brings to this team and the fact that he's been pretty effective for a 21-year-old. Like rookie season, all rookie team, second year, a couple months of the year, he was averaging upwards of 14, 6, and 6 per game, I believe were the numbers when you look at the splits. But as you saw by the numbers, clearly he's much better with Steph Curry on the floor. And when Steph Curry goes off the floor, that future all-star comment that Joe Lacob made, you see it at times, I guess, but consistently in these playoffs, you have not seen it whatsoever. In fact, you've seen a player that you start to wonder why he's playing upwards of 40 minutes per game and whether Steve Kerr should potentially look to go a little bit bigger and have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green bringing the ball up the floor. And maybe, start Jonathan Kuminga with Trace Jackson Davis at your 5. Find another way to space it with Quentin Post, more Buddy Hield instead of, 15-minute breaks on the bench, whatever it may be. What are your thoughts on Podziemski as a long-term piece to this Golden State Warriors team? Because he's someone that isn't paid a lot and could be a potential trade chip in the offseason if the Warriors are looking to mix this thing up just a little bit.
Yeah, I think Podziemski is a victim of over-reliance, and I think it's a reflection really of the depth of this roster, which is founded, as we talked about in the first segment, on those top 3 guys. Podziemski should not play as much as he does. I think everyone knows this. There hasn't been a player in over 10 years, or in the last 10 years, I should say, that has shot worse so far in a series, 23.1%, than Pods since 2014, his field goal percentage. Like, that's how bad he's been. So he's clearly he should not be playing as much as he is.
But Pat Spencer is your option, and we saw how that looked in game 3.
Yeah, and I know that he's had some good stretches at the end of games, Pat Spencer has, but you're right. In game 2, you saw over an extended period of time, he's someone that's going to get picked on and just isn't an option. So he highlights to me that the roster deficiency that the Warriors really have, which is clearly shooting, but also quality guard play. And this is something that the Warriors have been dealing with for a long time, the lack of a true backup point. And Pods is decent, but he's not as your starting 1 or your starting 2. So that's to me where Podziemski's biggest issue lies. And really, I think where the Warriors, again, look to Steph Curry to mask so many problems about this franchise and this roster, and it's getting highlighted in the biggest of stages. So I think it's a little unfair to Pods because it's not a position, quite frankly, that he should be in whatsoever.
All right, so here's the catch-22 of all this. The whole Wally Pip thing, and Jonathan Kuminga is not Wally Pipping Steph Curry anytime soon, but when someone goes out, another player has an opportunity to come in, step up, show what they can do. In this case, it's been Jonathan Kuminga. The offense has been a little more simplified. There hasn't been as much motion. And because of that, Kaminga, who sometimes can get a little lost on the offensive end, has been able to just kind of pick his spots and works well off Butler, quite frankly. It was game 3, I believe it was, where Butler would have his back to the basket and he'd kind of tell Kaminga to cut. Kaminga would move and Butler would find him for an easy finish around the rim. And Kaminga's really thrived in this more ISO offense, so to speak. But the thing is about Kaminga, his trade value has now gone up, if that's something you're looking into, because the Warriors can only do so much this offseason in terms of free agency. They're hard capped again. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're hard capped again. So there's only so much you can do without getting a little creative. And one of the creative aspects is you keep Jonathan Kuminga. You love what you've seen. You ink him to a deal. You probably get a somewhat team-friendly deal because of the fact that he hasn't had a full season to show what he can do. That would require, though, doing something with Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green, in my opinion, which I don't think is going to happen. So with that being said, the next best thing that you can potentially do is trade him. And the talks are the Brooklyn Nets, Cam Johnson. I would say Cam Thomas. I mean, that fits a position, shooting guard. You want Brandin Podziemski or you want Cam Thomas putting the ball in the basket? The answer is pretty clear to me. And they're both restricted free agents to where if you could make the money work in that sense and do a swap, maybe throw in a draft pick, whatever it may be, that could be something that's enticing. But when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, do you think his days are numbered in the Bay Area? Do you think there's somehow, some way, a way past all this to where he can fit into the system and be a part of this future?
If I was Jonathan Kuminga, I would want out. And it's because this system is not built for him. It's because this system is built around a 37-year-old top 5 player of all time and now built around another co-star in Jimmy Butler. That's what the Warriors did when they chose Butler at the deadline. I don't think it's necessarily that Jonathan Kuminga can't coexist with them, but they don't complement each other very well. I think the reason why Kuminga works so much when Steph isn't off the floor is because there's quite clearly an offensive void. And the one skill that he does possess is scoring the basketball. But when Steph's on the floor, you don't need that skill as much. And I think the Warriors would be wise to highlight that to other teams and try and figure out if there's a way they could complement their current iteration better by using Kaminga. It's not a knock on JK. It's not a knock on anybody else. It's just the fact that he hasn't fit over 4 years well enough for them to figure out how to highlight his skill set.
Look, man, look at Minnesota and New York. Both of them could potentially be going to the conference finals up 3-1 in the series. They made the swap with Julius Randle and then also Karl Anthony Towns. And that is proof that sometimes trades can just help both teams, right? It's all about fit and what you're looking for. And if the Warriors are planning on running this offense for another 2 years around Steph Curry and the movement, they need some shooters. They need a different kind of attack. And Cam Thomas of the Brooklyn Nets, I think, is an interesting name to keep an eye on if the Nets would potentially trade him. He's one of the most polished young scorers in the game. He put up 40. And he would be a scoring presence that the Warriors have not had that's under the age of 35 since Jordan Poole, really. So he could put the ball in the basket, man, and that's going to be interesting. It seems like Kaminga, from all accounts, good young player, does the right things. He is, per Austin Rivers, one of the harder workers. He gets his work in. So it has been pretty strange that he went from getting like 16 minutes as the season wound down to all of a sudden that Clippers game, he gets the DNP and then just gets DNP after DNP. You would think at the very least he can give you some spot minutes, 8 minutes per game. And even when the mop-up crew comes in, Guy Santos and Kevin Knox and all these guys, Kaminga's not in there to provide some energy or at least enhance his value. Why do you think this is? Because there truly is no explanation for it in terms of him going. I mean, I can understand the minutes reduction like it was when he came back from the injury. He was only getting 14, 20, whatever. But to go to DNPs, it was strange.
Yeah, I agree. It's a conundrum that Steve Kerr has really got to wrestle with. And the fact that he wasn't able to figure out how to make this work might have
It's
decreased
coaching,
the
right?
ceiling of the Warriors. Yeah, I'm not sure. But to me, the question the Warriors have to ask themselves is, what direction do they want to go? Because if they're going to lean into their older players, then we've seen from the last 15 games that Kaminga was here, like he just doesn't fit. But if you're trying to figure out from this postseason series, and I would say even the last one, like, how are you going to beat Houston in a year? How are you going to beat Minnesota in a year? Hell, how are you going to beat OKC in a year? All three of those teams are very young and up and coming, and the Spurs are also on their way as well. There's a lot of really good young teams in the West. So if you want to combat them by getting younger, then Kaminga absolutely fits. And you're going to have to maybe make some hard choices as to your veterans. Draymond Green is a name that I know a lot of people love. Might be potentially between JK and Green. But I think the Warriors have kind of made their bed. I think this is a team that really wants to see it out with Steph, Green, and Butler, at least for one more season. And from that standpoint, Chuck, I'm with you. I don't know if it's Cam Thomas or another player, but it's certainly someone else that can step in and at least poke the coach enough to play him, which for whatever reason, Kaminga has not been able to.
All right, the Warriors are going to be missing Steph Curry. It's official in Game 5. We're going to talk about this one coming up. It's the Dubs, and it's Minnesota back in Twin Cities at Target Center. Evan Giddings on the show to break down this game. Today's episode is brought to you by America's #1 sports book. You all know what that is. It's FanDuel, and the NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night's delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. They make it easy to stay in the game, does FanDuel. You can do it before tip, or you can do it live. You got player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. You have more ways than ever to win big and to play smart. Who's showing up in the biggest moments? You think Podziemski's going to hit 3 threes in his next game? Let's just say I took that in the last one at plus 210 and 3 of 14. Unfortunately, those 3 buckets were all 2s, so I did not win that one. It happens, though. But what would you do with $200 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins? And that first $5 bet win, it can be on a minus 700. Throw it on something easy. Win yourself $200 in bonus bets. It's thinking smarter, not harder. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Sports betting is the best. Prop bets, parlays, live betting, live over-unders. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It just feels like the Warriors are in a precarious spot. And the interesting thing about it is we don't know how close they were. And it's not over yet, but we don't know how close they potentially would be to competing for an NBA championship this year because they took down the 2 seed. They took down the Wolves in Game 1 when Steph Curry played some of the game. And then from there, I mean, it's a complete wash. It's a different team without Curry on the floor. So it's like, are they going to try and run it back next year? Minus Kaminga and add in a piece or 2 or what? We don't know.
Well, I actually think we kind of do because they have 3 players on their roster that are close to $130 million or $140 million in cap. So I think we do know that they're going to run it back. And unless they trade one of them, that's going to be their game plan. So the only reason I mentioned condensing players is you're right. A couple of those guys haven't played. However, Podziemski had 26 points in a Game 3 against Houston without Jimmy Butler that helped you advance in that series. Moses Moody was a part of a starting lineup that went 19-4 down the stretch of this season that helped you even get the 7 seed and relieve yourself of missing the postseason entirely. And Jonathan Kuminga did play enough this season to help you win games when you were really struggling before you even got to the deadline. Like part of this, yes, you're right, Chuck. Those players haven't helped you in a 16-game format or a 7-game series, but you have to just get to the playoffs to even earn that opportunity. And a big reason the Warriors are fighting an uphill battle is because they started 24-25 before they even got Jimmy Butler. So you need players in the regular season that are, number one, good, but number 2, going to play. And Jimmy Butler has not been able to stay on the floor for more than, I think, 53 games over his last 5 years in Miami. Draymond Green played a lot this year, yes, but he's going to be 35. Steph Curry is going to be going on 38. You need guys that are going to be on the floor, and you need younger players. So that's my only apprehension in trying to combine bodies at this point for another big dog.
So if you're Dunleavy, if you're thrown into the GM spot, are you kind of just shrugging your shoulders and say, Moses and Pods, we need you to be better this upcoming season? When the offseason comes, we need you to be better in order to reach our goals? Or like, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can use Kaminga to go get someone, but you gave Moses Moody a team-friendly 3-year deal. Podziemski is, to your point earlier, 21 or 22 years old, and he failed in his first postseason, which, oh, by the way, is not that uncommon. Players not being good in their first playoffs is not a strange thing. And like I just mentioned, yes, he's not been good in Minnesota, but he did help you win a postseason series. That's not nothing. So building on what you already have, maybe more importantly, with the amount of top 3 contracts you have, cheap talent, I think that's the way that Mike Dunleavy Jr. is trying to look at this thing, because you also mentioned the fact that they're not going to dive into the second apron. The fact that this team got to the second round of the playoffs by getting cheaper is not something that generally happens. When you cut payroll, when you slash payroll across all industries, you get worse as a product. And the Warriors actually not only got better, but they won a postseason series after missing the playoffs entirely. So I think Mike Dunleavy Jr., I would trust him to make the right decision this summer.
Game 5 from Target Center. Have not seen the official spread. I'll pull this up while you are getting into it, but I would imagine, just off my capping abilities, let's go with 6 flat. I'm going to go with, in this game, Warriors and Wolves. If I gave you those odds, who would you be taking?
I would take the Minnesota Timberwolves.
You would. So you think they're going to cruise in this one?
In that one, Chuck. I mean, I just think they're a team that's poised to get what needs to get done, similar to the Lakers series.
Can I update you real quick? The spread's minus 11.5 in favor of Minnesota. So the sports books aren't even giving the Warriors a chance. They are basically saying, pack your bags, fellas. It's on to Cancun. It's on to Puerto Vallarta. Season's done for you guys. So Warriors are massive underdogs. Hop on FanDuel if you think they have a shot, because you can win some serious cash.
Yeah, I still like Minnesota. I just think that the Warriors are resigned to their eventual destiny.
11.5? You like Minnesota 11.5?
The Warriors have only won games in this postseason, Chuck, when it's been close. And they have not been able to get that outside of game 3, obviously, against the Timberwolves. But when they've lost big. And as much as, yeah, it's 11.5 point spread. I mean, I guess, take the Warriors. They're not winning game 5. Like, that's just the way that I feel. I do not think that this team has what it takes to go into Minnesota and beat a group that is clearly playing with the most confidence that it has the entire season. And
has better players than you when it comes down to it. Without Steph elevating his teammates.
And Curry's been officially ruled out for game 5.
Evan Giddings on today's show. Catch him on 95.7 The Game. Thanks for joining the show, brother.